Hi, in this video I want to make some distinctions between psychological and physiological, not necessarily feeling or suffering, but just the sense that we get from these things. How there is a distinction to be made, and the distinction I want to make is that psychology is more, obviously I've mentioned before that these things feed off of each other. Um, Psychology feeds on the mechanism of physiology. So like we're all matter, but we're all psychology. We're all physiology, but we're all psychology. The physiology is the brain that's that's creates the function of psychology, and the psychology is all that we are because that's the thing that's feeding the ability for us to feel more than anything. So we're kind of in a sort of stuck in a feedback loop when it comes to that kind of stuff. So the basic thing, or the distinction I want to make, is that psychology is more of a tension, more than physiology, which can be attributed more to a direct pain, more of a direct feeling, like sort of like the one or two steps to feeling and whatever distinction that was made. You feel more based on avoiding attention. Our psychology is attention that we need to satisfy, and the addiction is almost like saying there's a difference between a physical addiction and a psychological addiction, sort of like psychological compulsion, satisfying the compulsion as opposed to an addiction. While physically addicted, sort of like to something like nicotine, is something that's physically addictive and can physically cause your psychology to react in certain ways to cause you to give in and need to satisfy that addiction. So there is a distinction to be made between those two things, being physically addicted and or psychologically addicted. And I would say the physical addiction or the physical manifestation of that addiction is something that's more direct. That's while it's pretty much the tension being one, two steps, satisfying that tension to avoid. It's about voiding, about eliminating the pain is the one step where you're obviously already there, which is caused by a physical, typically speaking, physical manifestation of some kind of feeling. It's a more direct feeling, and our psychology reads it, and then we um, psychologically react by having a reaction, whatever the reaction may be, screaming out in pain, um, crying, whatever it may be. And there are things that are more direct as opposed to a psychological tension, and about making those distinctions. The psychological tension is um, more of a sideways, more of a detour when it comes to that. You got to take more steps around, but it leads to the same thing. It leads to a tension, and that's the basic function of our addiction, is that we're relieving tension or eliminating pain, a tension that's given to us based on a direct physical interaction of, say, a nail in your foot or a sharp object in your skin, whatever kind of pain or direct threat to the physical being is more of a direct thing as opposed to a tension that needs to be satisfied or an addiction because our psychology is not something that can be hurt. I mean, even our brain can't doesn't have any feeling. We can't physically cause the brain to feel any pain unless we um, but it can feel tension unless you stick too many um, you strike it with too much electricity. But it's the same thing. It'd be a psychological reaction. You wouldn't be feeling anything, but you could physically see something happening. But the pain, the feeling, cannot be felt. Um, so there is a difference, and the addiction comes from the psychology. But there is a difference between the psychology and the physiology. Um, and the physiology is something that leads more directly to that end result, and that end result is a feeling, a tension that can be directly attacked by the um, psychological aspect or the mental aspect can't be attributed the same thing. It's the same basic idea and it comes from the same source, but it's not the same thing. It's more of a tension that's built up over a period of time, or not necessarily needing any time, but it's a physical. Um, it's not a physical thing. it's more of a reliance on something, being addicted, while being physical, it's more of a direct thing that's affecting you physically. Um, whatever example that you would like to use when it comes to feeling something physically. Psychologically reacting is different, and it's more of um, a reaction of self-awareness, of self-consciousness, of being aware, of being able to react and be aware of it. And that's where the biggest thing comes from. That's where they two tie together and make it so difficult, because it's a function. The function of our sentience comes from a physical aspect of a physical interaction causing a psychological response, and we respond based on tensions to a psychological response, and the psychological response responds to a physical threat or a physical feeling. So that's where the two bind and cause that kind of loop where they feed off of each other as the sentience. That sort of feeds that mechanism um, of self-awareness, being able to feel any kind of feeling. So that's where the basic idea comes from, um, and how they feed off of each other. Um, I hope that makes sense. I don't know if there's anything else I can add on the subject of psychology. There's more of a tension as opposed to a physical feeling, but I think, at least I would like you to understand the gist of what I'm saying. It's a basic idea that I've covered vaguely before, but it's pretty simple, pretty easy to understand. A little badly explained, or vaguely explained, or poorly explained, but it's the basic idea that can be at least vaguely understood, if not, if inadequate ways of describing it do happen to be the ways that manifest themselves. So that's the basic idea. Um, so yeah, psychology is more of a tension, while sort of like the tension is more of a two-step as opposed to the direct pain. Like the physiology is where we manifest, and the direct pain that we, or the feeling. I just want to associate with suffering and pain because that's really what we're fighting. That's the only thing that there is to avoid. And to get rid of that, relieve it, feel like you're in a good state, and then right back into the same old forced addiction, forced tension. I mean, it makes it very obvious in certain cases, like having to use the restroom or getting rid of something in your body or whatever it may be, a physical manifestation, but something that's only in the brain is a little more indirect. It's more of a response in and of itself, and it takes that extra step of a psychological response to realize sometimes it's just it's a multi tiered process of getting that reaction. Mm. Yeah, sometimes I get lost in my way of describing things. So anyway, so yeah, psychology is more of a tension, and tension is in more of a indirect way of feeling, while the direct, it's the same basic thing. It leads to the same thing. You just have to take two steps. Um, sort of like imagining it going straight, like a triangle. One step, they start at the same place, but one has to go up, while the bottom of the triangle, is the direct path, while the indirect path of tension is you have to go up, then go back down to the same point. So it's like a triangle, the blood triangle of the face. Um, Pointless um, comparison or illusion. But anyway, that's the basic idea. Tension, psychology, synonymous, because it needs a psychology to create an addiction or a tension to begin with that can feel and be aware of that feeling. But tension exists outside of it, but the function of the value of the tension comes from the sentient being experiencing that tension. So while the physical is more of a um, direct tension as opposed to the tension of the psychology, it's more of a direct feeling. So I think that's really all I need to mention. Sorry for droning on. Sometimes it's required in these videos, because I am finding my own way in these videos too. I mean, I just write an idea down and 3, 4 words, and I just go with it. So sorry if you're learning along with me, but it's part of the process sometimes, like most of the videos I make. So thank you, and until next time, bye.